and is very welcome to the show from Deadline.com. He was in the auditorium when the slap heard around the world happened. It's Pete Hammond. Pete, good morning to you.
Hi, how are you?
Yeah, very well. Thank you so much for giving us a couple of minutes this morning. I know we've kind of been, I said from day one, this is like the biggest news story in the world, but it's definitely not the most important. We always want to put that out there because we are giving it a lot of attention because it's interesting, but actually, two very wealthy, privileged celebrities getting in a spat is not really going to change the world. But in saying all of that, we all do like to see what's going on with our, celebrities and our idols. Now, we spoke to someone from the New York Times earlier this week who was actually in the press room, but you were physically in the auditorium. So you were in the room where the slap happened. Before we talk about the following 5 days, can you tell us from a literal firsthand account what happened in the room and what the vibe was?
Well, the vibe was from where I was sitting, it looked like a gag. When he went up there, I thought he was doing a movie punch and that sort of thing. And only when he went back down, came back down, and you heard very clearly what he was saying, and it
Yeah.
was very angry. Suddenly, the laughter that was going on where I was sitting just turned dead silent. It was just so weird because it became so tense. You didn't know where it was going to go from there, which is why I credit Chris Rock for just being so professional and keeping it, because that's a terrifying moment when you're dealing with
Yeah.
somebody like that and in that situation. And Will Smith repeated it again, the exact same thing that he said, which you've all heard. And it wasn't censored in the audience there, so we knew exactly what he was saying. And but man, it was a scary moment. And then after that, the whole show took on a different vibe. I felt really bad, obviously, for Questlove, whose category was there, but
Yeah.
on down the line, and now it's been replayed and replayed and replayed. When I wrote my analysis of it later that night, I predicted that. I said this will take on a whole life of its own because that's the only clip you're going to see for days, and it takes on a whole different thing. People are really upset about it, continually to be upset about it.
Yeah. Questlove said something really interesting. He said that he was kind of meditating when it happened and that he wasn't really, quote unquote, in his body. So he really sort of missed it. I actually think Questlove did completely the right thing going up in that moment and not acknowledging it. But it does feel very strange. We saw the whole thing in New Zealand. It wasn't edited down at all. We saw the live thing. We heard all the words. And it did seem very strange to me that no one then acknowledged it. Like I've been saying for a few days, someone needed, and Amy Schumer did brilliantly with her
Yeah,
joke about what have I. That was brilliant as a comedic piece. But
that's why
someone
you need a
really,
host. That's why you need a host on a show to come out and to ease the tension. She really did it.
but someone really did need to stand up, even if they were a huge fan and supporter of Will Smith, and say, "Will, I love you, but that was wrong." Like that needed to happen from up the front, which didn't happen.
Right.
As you were in the room, what because obviously in a television we see, look, I can almost do it. This we see this much, right? In a television, this
Yeah.
this much.
Right.
And what we saw when he won his Oscar was a huge standing ovation and much love shown to Will Smith. In the
Right.
auditorium, did all that was that represented amongst all the people, or were the people in the I was going to say cheap seats, you know what I mean? Were
Right.
they more disgusted and quiet at that time?
Yeah. I was in the cheap seats and we were more disgusted. There were some, when you stand, at these things, you just stand up, when somebody wins like that, that happens. There weren't that many standing ovations on the show, by the way, up to that point, a few. But that I didn't stand, and nobody around me really did. We were just like kind of going like, "What? I don't know what to think about this." But I was upset with him at that point. I really was, because the moment had been taken away from all these winners and things that were happening,
Yeah.
and I just thought this is so unnecessary. And why can't he control himself? And, I've been to a million Oscar shows. I was at La La Land too. And believe me,
Wow.
I was sitting there and that was a shocker, man, when that happened. And you're going like, whoa. But this was just, it's a little different vibe, and a bad vibe, I must say. But no, no one was really standing around me. If you look at if the tape goes up that far, I was on the second part of the mezzanine. That was down below. And I'm not sure what they were standing up for, just like you stand up when somebody wins, I'm certain they weren't standing up because he went and punched Chris Rock. I don't
Yeah.
believe that for a
Yeah.
minute.
Yeah. Now, the reporting that all of your team has been doing over at deadline.com has been great this week. If you people have been wanting to keep an eye on this, I was wondering, sort of 5 days later, what's the feeling amongst you guys who are in the nub of this, who are really looking into this? Because the feeling from this side of the world is that Jada Pinkett Smith in particular, but her and Will Smith are stuck up socialite, privileged. I mean, I was having a look, and I know this. We've looked at this already this morning about Jada Pinkett Smith has been saying for a long time, I don't give a crap what you think about my head. I'm proud of my head. Mama put a crown on it. This kind of
Yeah.
stuff. But now that that has happened, and there's been sort of revelations over the forthcoming days, like the Oscars asked Will Smith to leave after it happened. That came out yesterday, New Zealand time. What about you guys who are investigating, looking into it? What's the feeling? What's the vibe? What's the takeaway 5 days later from where we're at today?
Well, I don't know why, and she certainly looked like she was offended by this with the camera on her that I saw later. But I sat literally next to Will Smith and Jada 2 weeks earlier at the Critics' Choice Awards, of which I'm a president of the film division. And they were there, and she was wearing all kinds of beast jeweled stuff on her head. I mean, actually just showing it off. So I don't know. And that headline you just showed, also, she says, I don't give a crap what people think, so I don't know where the outrage came from. I think something they're trying to explain it away as Will's childhood and abuse against his mother by his father, and it's all just creeping up. I mean, we're going to see this apology tour and all these explanations. I just don't think there is one. And as this
Yeah.
plays out day by day, you're hearing different people giving different reasons of what could have happened in the audience and what the Academy did or didn't do and all of that. We just have to see this all played out and try to get to the truth of it, which we're trying to do. But we're having to write in a lot of speculation. You know, what did the Academy do? Did they go in and ask him to leave? Did they not go and ask him to leave? Did they send his publicist in? Whatever. Right now, we just have a lot of questions, not a whole lot of very strong answers, despite the Academy's statement yesterday that he was asked to leave and refused to. I think that's a little simplistic here. I know Will Packer's going on Good Morning America here on Friday morning. Maybe he can clarify it. Will Packer, of course, the producer of the show.
Gotcha. When it first happened, I said, I mean, I'm a huge Will Smith fan, have been for a long time, right? So this is not coming from a hater, but
Right.
I said, 15 seconds of madness feels like it's destroyed 30 years of being one of the nicest guys in Hollywood. Is there, in your opinion, a way back for Will Smith from this?
Oh, there always seems to be a way back for people, but we're living in an era of cancellation, where people get canceled. I don't know that he will. He needs to do a lot more here to come back. It's going to be very hard to look at him. He's got a big movie coming out next year, Emancipation, plays a runaway slave. It sounds like real Oscar bait again. But I just don't know that people are going to be able to watch that movie and not think of
Mm,
this. That's
mm,
the hard thing. Do you ever see a movie called A Face in the Crowd in the 50s? Elia Kazan. It was about a guy beloved by his listeners. Andy Griffith played him, beloved by all of them, until a hot mic was on once, and he said what he really was like, and his career was over. I don't know if Will Smith, who's crafted a brilliant career as a nice guy, and when
yeah,
you're a nice guy and lovable, and all of a sudden you see that image of him, that close up on the Oscars at that moment, and then what he did afterwards, that speech that went on forever, just sort of like self-aggrandizing, and also going to Vanity Fair and holding up his Oscar and dancing to his own music,
yeah,
with Jada saying it was a beautiful night. I mean, we're in the twilight zone here in
yeah.
terms of this is
I,
crazy time. So
it
I don't
is
know, to
crazy.
answer your question. I don't know. Time will tell. Will
All right.
people.
From deadline.com, that is Pete Hammond. Hey, Pete, thanks so much for jumping in and having a chat with us today. As I said before, I'm going to make this really clear to people who are like, no, not fucking Will Smith conversations again. It is not the most important conversation in the world, but it is very interesting. And it's also an interesting look at the human condition on some levels because, Jada Pinkett Smith in particular has painted herself as sort of a bit of a guru, a lifestyle guru, a spiritual guru, all these things. And I'm thinking not for the same seriousness of a physical assault, but when that mask was ripped off Ellen, and it was all those backroom stories came out, and people kind of went, oh, so she's not this lovely, nice person. There
Yeah.
seemed to be no way back for her from that. And I just wonder, I mean, like, talk to me a week ago, Will Smith would have been on my bucket list of interviews to do in my podcast, right?
Yeah. Oh,
If
sure.
it was offered to me today, I probably would do it today because of the controversy, but probably in a year from now, I don't know. I don't know if it would be the kind of thing I want to, want to support or not. I don't know. Maybe I'm being naive in saying that, but either way, Pete, it's been fantastic to talk to you today. We really appreciate your insight and thanks for your time.
Absolutely. Thank you.